And we're live. Welcome to Earful of Dirt, the Major League Rugby podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Corey Munson, filling in for the vacationing Josh Fredlin. I'm joined this week by Aaron Castro in Arizona and Craig
Liam.
and Craig Rudelli over in New York. Liam apparently went very Boston. He went to see about a girl and never came back, so we're not sure what's going on with him.
Went to see about a girl.
Yep. So right off the top, I just wanted to kind of jump in here and give a quick statement about something that's been percolating today over on our Reddit page. So for those of you not up to speed, there's a rumor that started today stating that Major League Rugby was in talks to partner with Flow Rugby or Flow Sports as their media provider for the league going for future games. Flow Rugby is also the entity that holds the contract to show USA national team matches for events such as the ARC. They also have club and college games that they broadcast. So just as a little background, that's kind of who they are. So here's my statement. Myself personally, and I believe I speak for Earful of Dirt in general when I say we are coming out strongly against this path forward for Major League Rugby. We feel it would be an extremely poor choice on the part of the leadership to partner with this organization that has almost no name recognition and at the same time is very expensive for subscribers to get a hold of. This is not how the league will grow its national profile. It is the wrong way forward for Major League Rugby, period. So, got that out of the way, address that because this is kind of what everybody's talking about right now. And now that I can climb down off my soapbox and maybe we can get on with the show. Thank you so much for listening.
Wow. Yeah, I guess I kind of started like people certainly know how to mess with me when I'm on vacation. Like I was enjoying my time, then I get hit up. What's with this flow? Have you heard about this flow shit? I'm like, what? I'm just enjoying coffee in Western Australia right now. Like I went on a 6-mile run and was got some sweet hookups too. I got to cover the rugby championship. So first it was like, hey, got a ticket for you. Okay. I actually have some contacts. We could probably get you credentialed. It's pretty late, but you just gotta, send an email. And I was like, okay. And so I got credentialed and, I will say, I'll talk about that part. That was great. But, yeah, so I was enjoying Western Australia.
Did you shave your beard before or after that part?
I definitely shaved after I got home. I don't know. I just figured that I needed to join my new captain, Michael Hooper, with the wear of the porn stash. So I'm in solidarity with the current leader of the Bledisloe Cup standings for the season.
I'm sure he's very appreciative.
Yeah. So, I asked a bunch of people about it. I guess it's kind of real. And then when it broke, I asked when it broke on Reddit, I did ask some people up at the league, and it's just sort of like, I mean, it's kind of real, kind of not, kind of, the fact that it's kind of out there sounds like someone broke an NDA, and I think I know who, and I don't think it was the league office, put it that way. I mean, Craig can go into how much money it would cost to make sense because he works at high levels of finance, so he could talk over method of return and all that hunya and where it makes sense financially. And I just, lowball this and I go, it would need to be a lot of money and the number would need to be stupid because Disney is going to launch their bundle. So think about this. Over 3 million subscribers for ESPN Plus currently. Hulu, normal, has over 26 million subscribers. Hulu Live has 2 million subscribers. And then you launch this Disney Plus platform, which has all the kids content, right? And Disney's going to launch a bundle. I don't know what they're going to call it. Disney like Super Plus or something. The ESPN side of the house is going to go over 10 million subscribers overnight, right? Like the exposure you get on that platform is going to be huge. Whereas Flow Rugby has under 300,000 subscribers right now.
Yeah.
So that's my opinion. So that's my opinion.
Know all the puts, at least I don't know all the puts and takes. I don't know if the subscription would be different or, what type of money they'd be willing to pay the league. And I won't bore the loyal Earful of Dirt audience with my high financial analysis, but MLR, if you're in the market for some free consultation, look me up. But I will say it's hard to imagine.
Whoa. You probably shouldn't. You should say, as a loyal rugby man, it won't be free, but I will give you an excellent hourly rate.
Okay, there you go.
For my consultation.
Aaron can negotiate my fee. But I think, it's hard to imagine unless there's a major paradigm shift for what they've done to date, that this wouldn't just completely reduce any growth prospects as a TV audience. I mean, the game would have to rely on grassroots in-stadium ticket sale popularity growth, which is a thing, but, a much harder to scale thing than TV. So it definitely would seem like a very risky move and hard to see how it would be advantageous for the league.
Yeah. So back to the good stuff. I made it back from Perth, and this is where I'm like, I'm not supposed to be here. Liam's supposed to be here, and Craig was actually filling in for me. And we might have an announcement involving Craig in a week or so. Like expanding the team, making the bench deeper. Sort of like the Toronto Arrows, like basically now having the deepest back row in the competition.
So hold on, Aaron. Let me check this. So we might have an announcement about Craig joining the team, but we're not announcing it. We're just telling people that we might announce it.
Hey, priming the pumps.
Is that what we're getting here? Okay. So just so everyone's clear, Craig is not part of EOD. He's just on the air a lot.
And that was how Liam got at it,
Basically, yeah. Well, he interned with us, and there you go.
Yeah. So I wouldn't say Craig.
He never hurts anyone.
Yeah. So, as far as the Perth part, I think we all need to figure out how to move there and be able to work, because it was amazing. Weather was the weather was basically the same as Arizona in the winter, and I guess the summer gets just as hot, except that there's a beach right there, unlike in Arizona. So there you go. And now I'm back.
Craig, how was your weekend?
That was great. I was in New Orleans with a rugby team bachelor party. We're there for the weekend. There was the red dress run. Didn't run, but I did go to the after party. Solid weekend all around. It took me at least 48 hours to recover, but I think I'm feeling all right again.
Well, that's wonderful. Well, I stepped up for our local club here in Des Moines and invested in a ticket package for their season. So my wife and I are going to be going out. And
a local club is selling tickets.
Yeah, well, they're not selling tickets to just the regular thing, but if you want to pay them a few bucks a game for the season, they'll give you a tent and like a prime viewing spot and then a cooler with drinks in it for the game.
See, hey, American rugby. Don't necessarily charge admission just for regular games, but hospitality.
There you go. So I'm excited to go join, catch some rugby action out here with the Des Moines Rugby Football Club, DMRFC. So shout out to those guys. Can't wait to see them have another winning season this year. So
like that. That's pretty dope.
That'll be my summer. So what's left of it anyway. All right. So with all that said, Aaron, what we got coming up on the show this week?
So we're gonna do a segment called EOD Down Under. So we'll get into that. We're gonna do a Pacific Nations Cup roundup. Just go over the Tonga, Canada, and Fiji Samoa scores, and then sort of do a bit of a deep dive before we hit some questions on Japan's victory over the United States.
Excellent. And sorry about that. I'm still learning where all the new buttons are on this new system. Great. So yeah, starting things off with EOD Down Under. Obviously, Aaron was overseas for, was it 3 days? I mean, it was a day over there, a day back, and then you were there for like 2 or 3 days. I
was there for 4 days.
Okay, 4 days.
Except that, I lost a day going there, and well, I got back and obviously did nothing except get lunch with my paramour. So she and I had some good American in and out to say welcome back to the United States. Oh, what does a man need to do when he gets out of the joint?
Bring home flowers?
No. Oh, no. I did bring home some jewelry. So that for all the if your wife, girlfriend, what have you, allows you to fuck off, halfway around the world to go watch a rugby game, make sure you bring some stuff back. But so I got her a bunch of Australian opal stuff. So that'll be cool. When this thing's over, I'll go take my bundle of boxes. Here you go. Great time. I ended up being sort of like a fact-finding mission, kind of inadvertently. I didn't know it was going to go like this, but went to a lot of different rugby events. I would say the Australians definitely know how to, sort of create a test match atmosphere. On Thursday night when after I got there, the Western Australia Referees Association had a international referee forum. So they brought in all their referees, and you had, I forget who the female Australian referee that they had, I think Amy. Oh, this hurts me. And then, but they also had the Scottish ref, Holly Davidson, who was the center ref for the Wallaroos versus the Black Ferns. And then they also had Jerome Garces and Jocko Piper from that were on the men's referee team for the Wallabies versus the All Blacks, and Jerome Garces was in the center. And here's a cool stat. Jerome Garces has given out just as many red cards to the All Blacks as they have in total. So there were only two other red cards given, or 3 red cards given before this game to the All Blacks. And with this red card, Jerome Garces has now given ever. So 4 red cards ever. And with this red card that he gave to Scott Barrett, he now has given the All Blacks 2 red cards. So
wait, you're saying the All Blacks have only gotten 4 red cards ever?
Yeah, which is bullshit. But
how could that even be true? That's incredible if that's true.
Well, it's partially incredible that the black jersey gets that much deference. But if anyone watches the game, some BS.
So let me just ask a question then. When were yellow cards and red cards introduced into the game?
Red card, yeah, let's see. Probably pretty early. Let's look this up. I'm trying to yellow card rugby introduction. Yellow card introduced to in rugby. Wow. So cards were officially introduced in the 90s? Yeah, in the 90s. So 1995. So pretty much about when it became professional is when cards became Because 1888 was when we had like World Rugby, which was called the IRFB or whatever it was called. So you had, yeah. So there you go. Cards in 1995 when they became part of the law book.
So almost 25 years, and they've had how many? 4?
4. I can tell you that the Eagles have had like 4 in at least a season previously. So there you go.
So what all did you get to see as far as matches go, Aaron?
Oh man. Oof. So what was it? I saw there was a high school game I really didn't pay attention to. Like went to the Western Force game, and I'm going to write a lot about that and Rapid Rugby later on this week. There's some really cool stuff there. I met Raylene Castle, the CEO of Rugby Australia, so that sort of plays into this Western Force and Rapid Rugby article. And then I've also Twiggy Forrest had a press conference where he was really indefatigable, and he announced that Rapid Rugby would be back for season 3 and would be a full international competition that spanned 14 match weekends. So that's going to be kind of cool. It is different. Rapid Rugby is but I would say the event promotion and how it worked out, it was more like going to an American sporting event. Like you had, an anthem singer, you had a pre-match entertainment, you had a band, and then you had the band that was there was the Royal Australian Navy band, so that was cool. And then you also, I think his name was Sam Perry. It was some Australian that won The Voice last year. Sang at halftime, and you had a bunch of like dancers, so it was sort of like an NFL halftime show going down. So like they've focused, especially with the Force, creating an event and not just a game, and what that has led to in Rapid Rugby for the Force specifically has been attendance that has, just the Force have more people attending their Rapid Rugby games than all of the Australian Super Rugby teams combined. Think about that.
That's pretty incredible.
And then on what was it? On Saturday, I saw a schools game, and then a youth, and then an under 18 schools game, and then an under 18 club game, and I'm going to sort of write about some structural stuff that is kind of weird. They have some issues that we sort of faced here too, and then obviously got into and watched the back half of Samoa versus USA on my friend's phone. And then we walked over to Optus AU Stadium for the doubleheader of Wallaroos versus the Black Ferns and the Wallabies versus the All Blacks. But Corey, Craig, we all were in the press room for the rugby weekend, right? We could count how many people were there sort of on 2 hands.
Yep.
As many people as All Blacks got red cards.
Yeah.
Just about, yeah.
And so this thing was slammed. Like the press box was full. Like, and this is where it gets cool. You guys know how I talk about, press being taken care of when I've covered other sports and what we get for USA Rugby. So you had 2 meals. You had lunch, which was really weird. Lunch, which was Krispy Kremes and a Caesar salad. And dinner was one of 3 things you could have chosen from: butter chicken and rice, and a meat lasagna or pizza, personal pizza. And then they also had an espresso machine in the corner that I abused.
How's the pizza in Australia?
It was a personal sort of thing. It was kind of weird. I went for the They have regular pizza. They also apparently Mexican food is a very big thing in Perth. Found out. I also did go to the Fremantle prison, which was a part of the Australian prison system, famous Australian prison system. So that was cool. And put my feet in the Indian Ocean.
There you have it.
It sounds like a hell of a weekend there, Aaron. I'm glad you got to experience that.
That was pretty awesome.
All right, so let's talk about some USA-based stuff. What do you say?
Yeah.
But not based on the shores. Offshore, USA faced off against Japan, and this is the final weekend of the PNC. It didn't go our way, and I think we kind of expected it to be a tough match for sure. So U.S. did fall to Japan 34-20. So Craig, you want to start us off with a little bit of an analysis, kind of what happened here and what your thoughts are?
Yeah, look, I think as you said, I think most people, if we're being honest, probably weren't expecting to win this one. Maybe hoping we'd win, but even particularly when you saw the lineup came out, it was an unusual lineup. I think for the longest time, we used to say Gary Gold is very consistent with his selections. Obviously, this is really the last, organized chance for a tune-up before the World Cup. It seems like in this PNC in particular, he's been much more willing to try different things out, take different looks at players. And that was especially true this weekend against Japan. Pretty significant roster changes. A lot of people we haven't been seeing under the Gary Gold tenure in there. So, I think expectations were, if they were, well placed going in, were for a good showing, trying to keep it competitive. Did the USA keep it competitive? I think while AJ McGinty was in the game, yes, they kept it competitive. It was Japan scored. I think they went up 17-0, scored pretty quick. But then the USA had their turn being in charge for a while on the pitch. They had the momentum. They got it back to 17-10. They were attacking deep into Japanese zone. It looked like they may tie the game. Really, they had kind of all the momentum in their side at that point. AJ McGinty did go down on the USA first try, which he had a line break. He offloaded to Madison Hughes, who finished it. He went down, had his ankle taped. Will Hooley did the kicking after that. And then AJ left at something like 35 minutes. So after that, they got a little more out of hand. Halftime was a few minutes after that. In the second half, the USA never really got that same momentum. So, I think it probably wouldn't be fair to say we kept it close for the whole game, but I think we kept it close when we had our closest semblance to a starting lineup in there. And considering how many of our big players we didn't have, we don't have probably two of our starting front rows, both Joe Tafete and TT Lamzatelli not playing this week. Locks unclear, but Nate Brakeley hadn't been playing much in the last few tests. The whole back row has changed. So there were significant changes. All those things considered, I'd say, I'm satisfied with the outing against Japan, particularly the first half.
I think because we sort of talked about this game while it was going on, I think Will McGee does not get a fair shake here. I think he played decently well, and when I say decently well, he played this game cold. He did not play last week. He and Madison Hughes did not get onto the pitch last week against Samoa, which is really, I had no idea why he started at wing. He got the try, but he had sort of a Hughes-like game in that he does some decent things and he does an awful lot of bad things, and is just not fast enough at sort of like his position. I think he has some skills that make him an okay fullback, but he is not an attacking wing. He's not a finisher like a true 11 is. Normally your 11 is a much bigger, traditionally is like a much bigger and a little bit more dynamic kind of player, maybe not as highly skilled as your open or your right side wing, because you have Blaine Scully's pretty skilled, but if we looked at our other wing option for this thing, really is Marcel Brocky. You put him on the left side wing. He has played fullback at really high levels in the game, both for the Eagles and with the Western Force. He can put the ball down with his foot. He's got a lot of skills. He came in off the bench, I believe, or was he in the centers? I forget, but he did play in this game.
Yeah, he was a center.
Yeah, so we talked about this roster, and I said, why is Odge in this thing? I really had no idea why, because if you're not gonna put the best thing you have out there to like try to get this win, I guess you're just evaluating some guys that you're gonna eliminate them, and you need to make sure you can eliminate them based on the data. But I didn't think, even like I said, I didn't think Will McGee got a fair shake with some of the analysis being done. I thought he played decently well in the second half, but it wasn't enough. But it wasn't enough across the whole team, really. Our defensive intensity was a lot lower than it had been the first two games. We just were not recycling and resetting on defense well enough. On one of the things I did like from on attack is something that we've noticed over the last 3 weeks is our box kicking. Our box kicking has become very directional, and we're gaining territory, or at least putting the opposition on the back foot and making them run it out. Whereas often Eagle scrum halves, whether it's Nate Augsburger, Sean Davies, or Mike Petrie, or even Ruben DeHaas, instead of being directional with these kicks out of the breakdown, they will go like straight up, and like they'll only get 5 meters, and we'll then a try will be scored upon us because we won't be able to play transition defense. So all of Sean Davies' kicks have over the PNC have been directional and have gained a lot of ground, and we've been able to attack off those, which I thought was very good. But Nate, I don't know what you were doing with that kick from the hand. That was ugly.
Well, the whole team struggled. I mean, AJ sent one out on the full. I'm pretty sure Sean Davies' box kicked one out on the full too. Yeah. Our tactical kicking had been so good in the PNC, but it wasn't this weekend.
I would say our on attack. So I don't want to say it looked like the game against Canada, and we were playing a much better team. I want to say it looked like one of our ARC games where our just intent on attack was jacked up and our defensive intensity was jacked up. I thought Japan played decently well. We just gave up the ball way too many times, and considering how bad we played okay. I mean, the 14 points. I thought we were going to get pumped. I really did. So how do we take that? The boys are going to get, I think, a week off when they get back to the States. They're just going to go their separate ways, and then they're going to reform for the rest of World Cup camp. And we play Canada on the 7th of September. And there's a lot of lessons to take from the Pacific Nations Cup. I just don't know what our constraints were for this game, because we took more guys than Canada took. Like, Canada only took 2 Fiji. They're 31 for the World Cup. They might cut 1 or 2, but we had 35 guys there. So, and that says a lot about our funding, that because we qualified on time for the World Cup, we got more money and a longer camp and just had more money to have guys there. But if I'm looking at this game, it is kind of a downer, because I thought our performance was pretty poor in the scrum. That's one area I thought we looked okay. In the set piece from lineouts, especially on defense, I did not like that we didn't defend a lot of those lineouts, and we didn't contest them because I don't
couldn't get a jumper in the air. I mean, clearly coordination problems going on. They, like every other defensive lineout, it looked like a jumper was looking around and there were no lifter. I mean, it seemed like they just couldn't get on the same page.
There, and one of the other things is like the previous the last round of the Pacific Nations Cup was dry, like, or was wet rather. It was raining and humid. It might have been humid, but it wasn't raining. This one, it was pretty good conditions. So we just yeah.
Yeah, but you have a new hooker, you know, all your normal, no Cam Dolan, no Nick Savetta, like your normal.
This one's been the craziest thing for me. I guess we didn't use 6. We used 5. We used 5 hookers in the Pacific Nations Cup. I think I know who's not going to Japan based on some of these performances. Prop wise, I think our props overall across the board did pretty well.
Yeah, I agree.
Some hookers definitely played themselves into a ticket home over this tournament.
Yeah, I agree with that too. What do you think of I might mispronounce his name, but Faanana Schultz at 8?
I mean, when he started playing 8 for the SaberCats, I was like, oh. And then and then someone said he was USA eligible, and I was trying to figure that out. And someone was like, grandma. Yes, his grandma is an American, but his dad is also an American, so he's good to go. He's an American citizen. He can play. So, in the other positions, we've had sort of an understudy, but he's a different style of player than Dolan is. But I thought he did okay. He's not going to give you like those intercept tries, though.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing is, as you mentioned, we don't really have a clear backup 8 either. We haven't for a long time. I just wonder when they pick these Japan tickets if they're going to reserve a spot for that, or they're going to keep someone like Malin Al-Jabori who could play 8 but could also be a flanker.
I think Malin is more similar to Cam Dolan significantly because of his athleticism than Faanana Schultz is because of his length. Yeah,
so doesn't it make more sense to have him as? I mean, I don't think he's going to be the starting flanker, so I would almost be inclined to keep him as the reserve 8. And
yeah, so we'll see. I thought Mike Soseni, Feagai didn't really play that well. So and this, but I think we've sort of taken our wickets and beaten this dead horse pretty hardcore. And let's cover some other parts of the PNC and then get to the questions. And then, we're going to take a break for a couple weeks and then we'll come back to it. We'll try to do a World Cup preview, whether it's a super preview with some other people or our own. We're working that out. But let's just roll through the PNC the rest of the way and get to questions.
Yeah, so the 2 other games over the weekend were Tonga beating Canada 33-23, and we had actually a few questions about this over in the questions from Bob segment as well, so we'll hit on that further later. And then Fiji beat Samoa 10-3. So I don't know, did you guys catch either of these games?
I didn't watch either, but I read up on both. We'll talk about Canada a little bit, I guess, in the questions. But this was one week where I wasn't sure who I wanted to win. I mean, Canada, old rival, Tonga, soon to be World Cup opponent. I guess, ultimately would have wanted Canada to win this one. Either way, I mean, it was a fairly competitive match between the two sides. Tonga wasn't really pushed, but they didn't blow them out either. So I think when you look at the PNC as a whole and you kind of try to separate the, teams that showed well from the teams that didn't, I think, Tonga and Canada both had pretty rough PNCs, and neither of them helped themselves in this week.
Yeah. Well, for Kingsley Jones, I don't know. They leave this thing 0-3. They've had some pretty horrendous performances. This was probably their best performance, but it was against the weakest team on the schedule for them. Tonga physically, like no matter what their roster is, physically they match up with almost anyone. In in a lot of ways. They don't give you as much skill as an old Samoa would or as Fiji does right now, but they give you this intense physicality that is hard to manipulate. I guess a win for Tonga sort of helps us out when we beat them in the Rugby World Cup because it'll help our rankings quite a bit. Whereas we can't really get any points from Canada right now when we play them again. For both of them, it's really hard. Like Tonga just all tournament hasn't really played with discipline. So for them to get the win is better for them. But for Canada, it just like the ship is sinking right now. Like it is, the Titanic has broken and both pieces are sinking. Fiji over Samoa 10-3. I thought, just by a scoreline, it says because it was in good conditions, it wasn't in bad conditions. It really says a lot about Samoa's defense. I think it says more. It gives us some comparative scoring, and we know where we stand against with a team like Fiji. We know that Fiji, Samoa, and the U.S. are all really in sort of the same sphere right now. And Japan is a cut above over this group of opponents. But I think it gives us a good idea of where we are going into the World Cup, and it says, and it puts us in good position. Fiji, given the way they've been playing, I guess before the PNC, you would have thought that they might have, challenged for the crown in this tournament. But,
I think they were ranked ahead, and they'd won the last 4 in a row.
So, those gives you sort of pause, especially for Fiji going into the World Cup and thinking like what their opportunities are to gain wins. Whereas with Japan, they're going to get 2 wins. It's a question of can they catch Canada. Or not catch Canada, but catch Scotland like we did, but doing the World Cup. Because if they could, I think Scotland, they have a chance. Like they've got the skill set, they've got the systems.
It's in Tokyo. I mean, It's a home game for them, so I think they definitely have a chance to beat Scotland, and that that would probably put them in second place in their pool behind Ireland. They could very well be a quarterfinal team.
Yeah. So moving on.
Moving on. All right. So, yes, we want to spend a few minutes and bust through what was a lot of questions actually coming from the Reddit page today. So, great job, community. Good way to step up. Now, real quick, I got to give a shout out to Gotham-N1. Ask us for our 30 to Tokyo, and we are going to hold that question for our World Cup preview show. So just know that we got the question, and we are going to talk a lot more about that going into the Rugby World Cup. But for now, his other question was, should Gary Gold get ripped for not fielding his top team against Japan in an effort to win the PNC?
I mean, I'm not going to rip the man. Let's see how the results go. I mean, I guess, hindsight is 2020, but he knows what's going on in that camp. We don't really. So I thought it was strange. I was surprised by his lineup choices, but I'm going to reserve judgment until I see, who he selects for the World Cup and how they do. Knowing
who did not go to Fiji based on injuries or whatever reason, like our first choice front row did not go to Fiji. Tila Mosatelli, Eric Fry, and Joe Tafete all got time off. Joe Tafete and TD definitely got some time, much needed time off after long premiership seasons. They were, nursing some niggles going into camp. The weird one for me was Eric Fry because of injury, he once he had surgery and was recovered, didn't get selected for Van and hadn't played since October. So should he get ripped for not? I think we did. I think most people did not think this was a good roster for him to put out, and it was specifically like if you're going to put out a B roster, you need to sit your fly half. And we don't know what the injury status for Odge is. It looks like it's going to be an ankle, and he'll be okay. But would you have rather just rested him and had somebody else go in there? Because I think we would have been able to acquit this like this if Will Hooley had started at 10 or Will McGee had started at 10. We may have lost by another try, but we would not have gotten run out of the park at all based on how we played. And I thought we played pretty shit. So I don't think anyone agreed with his selections for this game.
Controversials for sure. All right. Marusharuim?
Marius.
Yeah. Asks, did we really want to only play one more test before Rugby World Cup, or did an opponent fall through and we're making the best of a bad situation?
Well, we made the best of a bad situation by getting Canada, but Australia did fall through. I actually talked to some media in Australia about this, and they're like, yeah. And I was like, you can host that game and make a bunch of money against Samoa, or you could come to the United States and actually, the reason why they're not coming here is they wanted set $1 million. Okay. Something to think about. And this is what I posted this on Reddit. So the government of Western Australia, they own almost all the sports facilities in Perth. And one of the facilities they own is Optus Stadium, this brand new oval ground, which was amazing. It was a great place to watch a game. They paid $5 million to Rugby Australia to have the rights to host that game. You're not going to be able to compete with. We sort of can't compete, especially now. We don't have money. I don't think any promoter out there is willing to give Australia that kind of cash, because we know there's 2 teams that would sell out a 60,000 seat venue. One of those is the All Blacks, and the other is England. Anybody else isn't going to sell out, Soldier Field. In an appropriately sized stadium, Australia will sell out a 30,000 seat stadium, but that's not what they wanted in the World Cup warm-ups in 2015. And we played at Soldier Field in September and had, 28,000 people in a 66,000 seat stadium. So we need the game. I'm glad we're not playing Harlequins B or Leinster C. And, we did play, I think we played Ulster C one year and got pumped by 50 points. So, yeah.
Yeah. I'm just glad we're changing tactics from this history of big payouts to teams to come to America to play. I feel like, after that rugby weekend, looking back, everyone just kept saying, except for the All Blacks, every time we do this, we lose money. So this time looks like we decided not to lose money. So it's a bummer we're not playing Australia, but I'd rather set that precedent now and change how they view this market, that we're not just going to spout out millions of dollars to host money-losing events.
That's fair enough. The second question from him is, can we get a post-PNC injury update?
I got nothing right now. As far as I know, Savetta is on track to be at the World Cup. I don't know anything about about Odge. I know that as of this week, Mikey Teo is now available. So,
yeah, McGinty stayed in the game, for probably 10 minutes after his injury.
Yeah, it's too long.
Yeah, well, he stayed in the game 35 minutes too long. But he didn't come right out, so I'm guessing it's not that serious. It's always a little hazardous to guess like that, but I haven't seen anything to lead me to believe that his World Cup status is in jeopardy.
Okay. Ruck over CDN, which I assume to mean Canada, asks, is Canada actually this bad, or was it made worse by experimentation? And was that a valuable strategy for them?
I mean, when you're in a World Cup year, I think the ideal is you've mostly figured out your team coming into that year. And then in your warm-up games, you're just working around the margin, fine-tuning things, ready to go. When you had a bad run-up and you're not sure who you're bringing or what your team's going to look like, you're kind of forced to experiment. So, I mean, the question's a little hard to answer because I think I'm sure they played a little worse because they experimented, but they're probably better informed for the World Cup because they experimented. So I think, unfortunately, they just had a bad run of form lately, and they're put in a position where they have no choice now but to experiment a little bit, and that's what you're seeing.
I think they are this bad. Nothing from Kingsley Jones has made me think that they are so far. I think long term they will be on the right path, especially with him. I think he knows what he's doing, but nothing in the short term without, say, another MLR team to buttress them with professional players or just another 10 to 20 players sprinkled throughout the league is going to be enough short term. With them long term, I think he might be able to get some structures in place where I don't think Kingsley is going to be able to reap the benefit of any of those structures, and they will continue to suffer on the field based on sort of what I'm seeing because they aren't able to keep a staff together. Like Kingsley's the guy, and then they'll bring in this guy to do scrum, and then they'll bring in this guy to do attack, and they just, they can't afford to keep a staff together. Wow, like there is so many issues wrong with Canada right now. I don't think like some of the experimentation was helpful. I think Peter Nelson at 10, so now, and then the game against Fiji, O'Leary had to play himself off the bench, and I think by being given that competition from a higher level player in Peter Nelson from the other options they had during the repechage, like it really showed that they have, two attacking 5/8s, and that O'Leary has played himself back into the starting 10 jersey, and that you have a good fullback in Peter Nelson. But outside of that, I mean, we had a stronger roster against them when we played them in the ARC, and they had a weaker roster when we played them in the ARC, and they played us much closer. And we pumped them in the first round. So, yeah, I don't think they even have a chance against Namibia. Like, I know they are targeting Italy and targeting Namibia, but if you look at the way this team is playing, they're going to be on a bad run of form going into the first round of the World Cup.
What's I'm looking this up right now. When do they play Namibia in their schedule?
Oh, fuck if I know. I think they get their easy games early, whereas we get our easy games last, or our easy game last. Rugby World Cup schedule. I tried to make this short, but
sorry, Aaron, I'm dragging you out.
Yeah. Let's go to matches. Let's go to Italy versus Namibia is first, and so they get Canada. Italy gets Canada is Canada's first game. That's on 26th September. Wow. So these guys get to hang out in they get a lot of rest up front. I guess we get a bunch of rest up front too. That same day we play England, so that's gonna freaking suck. When do they play?
October 13th, they play Namibia. So
yeah, so is that their last game?
I think so.
Yeah, that's their last game. So I guess it's kind of on short rest after probably getting slaughtered by South Africa. So
we know what we're gonna do there.
Yeah.
I expect to see the fourth string Canadian team in against that South Africa side.
Yeah. So there you go. All right.
Milk Steak Connoisseur. If the Eagles play in the World Cup as they played the PNC, how many games do you think they'll win?
1.
With our best roster, I think we could win 2. It requires some breaks. It requires some breaks. I don't think we have to play our best to beat Tonga. We just have to be healthy. Based on what I've seen from the PNC, we can make mistakes and still beat a team like Tonga, but we have to be healthy. We have like our best team has to play them, but we can, with our best team, we'll be able to beat them by 10, 15 points. We just have to be healthy. And then I don't think we'll beat England. No, there's no chance. No freaking chance. But depending, because I think we play France, or we play France and Argentina. They're both on short rest when they play us. So there is a chance for upset. And it's just been the way both of those programs have played. There's something there. But we just have to play. But for those games, they have to play bad, and we have to play our best game.
Yep, totally agreed. Though Argentina is also sliding in the world rankings a bit. They're Japan by 2 spots now. Japan's number 9, Argentina's 11. We're 14. So we're 14. So we're getting close.
We're 13. Yeah. We're 13. Or do we drop?
Today? We're the fuck? Yeah, we're 14 as of this week after
bullshit. Well, hey, our 2 highest rankings ever since they've been keeping rankings were achieved, I guess, 3 times by Gary Gold, 2 13ths and a 12th place. But so with that loss to Japan, Italy won. Italy moved up. Dicks. Ugh. Hate them. So there you go. Even though they lost their game.
Okay, friend of the show, Flash Gordon, wants to know,
Flash,
how can the MLR teams use the World Cup to capture the hearts of more stakeholders?
So we're starting to see this with a bunch of the teams with the PNC when it comes to doing local stuff, and that is hosting watch parties. It's going to be a bit tougher to host, say, USA watch parties with our time schedule. But for all
you want to attend a 3:45 a.m. watch party?
Hey man, as long as they're serving beer, I'll stay up. We'll start early, and we'll start at we'll call it day drinking, but start at 9 p.m. Yeah. So basically, host a bunch of watch parties, tie in with your community, and really work that stuff, and then try to get as much highlights of your current players as possible. So, but
I agree with that. I think we're still waiting on exactly what the broadcast plan is going to be, but it seems like figuring out access to get eyes on the World Cup matches is the key. So watch parties is a great idea, but whatever they got to do to get people seeing it, and then hopefully we have some success and there's some MLR players that show out well.
I want to say, so the final is going to be live on the Peacock.
Yeah. But we're talking USA matches here.
Yeah, so. Well, the USA matches are not going to be live at all. Sorry. I know one of the early games is on the Peacock, so on NBC. New Zealand, South Africa is going to be live. It's going to be live, so that's going to be apparently that'll be cool. But host watch parties, and not just one, but multiple locations and stuff. I think is what you do, and then try to do content with your players that are in the World Cup. So.
All right. Last question of the night, guys. When are we going to stop overhyping the Eagles just because they beat Canada? And this is from Pete Von Pete.
A lot of Canada resentment in the questions today after the PNC. I don't know. Obviously I'm from the U.S., trying not to overhype them as much as possible. At the same time, if we're not going to get excited about our team in a World Cup year, when do you get excited? I think they're the 14th ranked team. I think that's about right going into the World Cup. I expect them to play about that number, but I hope they play up a little bit and entertain us all.
Well, Pete, I know you're a cynic like me, but I think you're being a bit too cynical here. I think we used to get pumped by Canada, and we used to take it in the jimmies quite often. So the fact that we haven't lost to them in like 5 years is amazing, and we should get hype every time we can beat them by 30, because with MLR coming, they're going to have better quality training environments. So as long as we continue beating them, it's important. And why was it overhyped? We also beat Samoa, and you may have said as part of this question that we got lucky against to beat Samoa in November, but we beat Samoa by 3 points twice, and guess what? Samoa also didn't win, and it wasn't because of luck. It's because we played and put ourselves in position to win. Because guess what? We had to score to win. We didn't defend.
And didn't have our front row. Still missing a lot of first choice players, even in that match.
It's like you're telling me that we got lucky when we had like our second choice scrum half who had never started a game, and Samoa was his first start in November, and that like what? And then, you put him out there against Samoa again, and he plays pretty well. And so you can't tell me that we got lucky in these games when we didn't have our best roster, and they had better rosters in theory when it came to European professionalism. So, yeah, I think we had a good PNC campaign. It wasn't great. I think if we had our first choice front row and turned out a fully first choice team, we probably would have had a chance to beat Canada, or not Canada, but Japan. And then we could say, hey, 3-0, baby. Woohoo. Got some hardware to take home, but I think it was a successful campaign. That's it.
Fair enough. All right. That does it for us tonight. I want to thank everybody so much for tuning in. Any final thoughts on our way out, fellas?
See y'all in a couple of weeks. It's going to take me like a week to get back to normal because my body is wrecked. But for all the talk about how Australians like drink a lot, they have like I forget what someone told me what the laws are, but they have closeout laws that are early. The bars in Perth were closed at midnight. How are you supposed to celebrate this huge victory against the All Blacks? Or if you lost, how are you supposed to, drink away your sorrows if the bar is closed at midnight? What kind of BS is that? Hey, and also guess what? The longer the bar is open, the more tax revenue you guys get. So come on now. That's what I got to say about that.
There you have it. Final thoughts for me, work on the line out. The USA needs to do better in the line out in the World Cup.
All right. Well, yeah, I guess the only thing I got to say is it's fair season here in Iowa. I don't know if anybody's seen that on the news, but apparently every freaking candidate in the world is here right now. So
calling out bingo.
Yeah, standing on a box and shouting at people apparently, and flipping pork chops. So I'm heading down to the melee tomorrow and jump in and enjoy some fair time. So I guess that's my my plan going forward.
Ask all the candidates who's heard of Earful of Dirt. See what they say.
Yeah, I'll check with them. Excuse me, sir. Corey Munson, Earful of Dirt. Have you heard of me?
For all our Houstonites or Houstonians, here's something cool. Paul Healy will be on Great Day Houston tomorrow morning. So I like that we're getting these mainstream local morning shows. You got to hit the breakfast circuit. You gotta hit the sports radio. You got to do everything. So I like to see that they are getting tied in with all the morning shows in Houston to get in front of the folks that watch morning shows, I guess.
All right. Okay, so a few notes on our way out. Please note that all opinions expressed on this broadcast are those of the hosts and guests and do not necessarily reflect the beliefs or practices of Major League Rugby teams or the league. Aaron Castro is employed by Major League Rugby. Be sure to tune in next week. We'll be live on YouTube, hopefully, and Twitter each Monday night. No, not next week. 2 weeks. 2 weeks from now.
Is it 3 weeks?
Or 3 weeks.
Let me-
We'll be live at some point in the future. Check our Twitter feed. We'll
3
keep
weeks.
you guys updated.
3 weeks. The 2nd.
And be sure to check us out on your favorite podcast platform every Wednesday morning. If you like what we do, please become a subscriber on YouTube or iTunes. And it helps other folks find us. So be sure to share your own news, views, and abuse with us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, or via email at earfulofdirt@gmail.com. Thank you guys so much for listening. That's it for us. Catch you next time. And before you go, get out there and watch some rugby.